everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Silhouette Secrets Plus, and I am back with a quick tip on how you can do a test cut with the Curio 2. And the reason I'm bringing you this tip is because I thought something was wrong with the machine when I first did my test cut with it, and in reality I just didn't know what I was doing. So I want to share with you not only how the test cut is supposed to work, but also what I did wrong and why I thought there was something wrong, because there isn't. I just had to do it right. So I wanted to share that with you so you can be successful with your test cuts. Test cutting is going to be one of the most important factors with your success in cutting with the Curio 2, especially with this new electrostatic mat. So let's go ahead and get this set up. I will throw links and additional links in the description for videos on specifics on the electrostatic mat because it is new and I do have tips out there for that, but we'll go ahead and get this set up. So I'm going to be using a sticker paper. Now I did leave this in the package because I've noticed once I take my papers out of the package, they're starting to curl in my room. Humidity affects your papers. And one of the things that you need to keep in mind with the success of your electrostatic mat is that your materials need to be completely flat. So I am going to pull out a sheet from the middle of this package so I know that it's flat. Semi-flat, we're going to hope that that's going to work. You want everything to be flat. If your edges are curled, torn, any of that stuff, it could affect the charge. So I'm not going to go into extreme details. Check the description in the below this video for exactly how to set up your mat. I'm going to turn it on, and I've had this going while I've been recording videos. So it did lose its charge. So I'm going to set that on there, smooth this down. I'm going to give it a second to set up. So while that's building a charge, I'm going to pop over into the Silhouette Studio software. And you can see that I don't have anything on my screen. That's perfectly fine. I'm simply showing you how to do a test cut. I'm going to click on the Send tab in the top right corner. My machine has already been recognized because I've been using it. And you have your little test button in the bottom right corner. So I'm going to be utilizing that. I am going to be using sticker paper. So I'm going to scroll down the list and I'm going to choose sticker paper white because that's what I'm using. Now, I already know that the test cut's going to be too deep because I've been testing this. And here is my test, in fact. And using the defaults in the Silhouette Studio software, that was too deep with the presets. All I needed to do was decrease the blade depth to 1. Make sure the shaded number in the middle is what is on the screen for your black dial. So I'm going to smooth this down now and build up that charge. Make sure it's completely flat with no air bubbles. Cannot move it. I'm going to take my paper, going to place it in the top left corner, and your test cut is going to default to the top left. If you want your test cut, which I guess I'll demonstrate after, I'll do one test cut at the default and then we'll move the housing and we'll do another test cut. The biggest thing with all Silhouette machines is when you do a second test cut that you have to move the housing, you need to move it both left to the right and down. So wherever you leave that housing is exactly where the test cut's going to happen. If you only move it over to the right, it's going to cut on a cutting mat if you are using a cutting mat. In this case, if you were to move it to the right, it could cut onto your machine. We don't want to do that. So make sure if you are moving your test cut that you move it both over and down to the exact location you want it to set. Now, because the Curio is specifically designed and it has a clearance of 20 millimeters. I want to be very specific there on clearance. So it has a clearance here of 20 millimeters. That is not cut ability. It still has the same cut depth ability as a Cameo has. So our blade, the max blade for a Cameo or for this machine, for the Curio 2, is 3 millimeters. And it will take time and practice if you are attempting to cut 3 millimeters. even 2 millimeters. But the biggest factor I want to make clear here is it has a clearance of 20 millimeters. This is awesome. This is great for this machine because we can do things now on canvas, on wood that's under 20 millimeters. You could sketch on it. You could put a journal in here to use with the heat pen. All kinds of possibilities open up now that we have this 20 millimeter clearance. But again, it's not cut ability. So make sure to keep that in mind. So because we have that, the Curio 2 auto detects the height. Now, before you can do the test cut, you want the machine to auto detect the height, or your test cut is not going to reach the material. And that was what I did in the beginning, and it didn't work. So I'm going to show you the right way, and then I'm going to show you what happens if you don't do it the right way. So first, I'm going to click on this button, which will be hard to see here, but it is your auto detection button. So I'm going to press that. The housing is going to move, and it's going to move up and down to detect the height. Now we can do that again because I missed it. The housing is auto detecting that material. This is important for your test cut. If you don't auto detect the thickness of the material, the blade won't move down far enough to reach the material when you test. So now I can click test. It's going to adjust my blade according to the settings I have set in the software. Now, I thought it didn't work, but in reality it did, and you probably were already screaming at the camera because I can't see this from this angle. My paper is curled. It did not maintain that charge because the edges of my sticker paper are curling up. The auto detection detected that curl. So while you want videos to be perfect, that's not always the reality because it is going to happen to all of us. Obviously, because it happened to me, I could not see that, and I needed to create a better charge. So we're going to see if this will work now. So now I'm going to press this button. Press the right button. There. The housing moved down farther to auto detect that. Now, I could edit this video or I could re-record it, but it's going to happen. And I really want you to have success with that. I don't want to show you things that everything is perfect the first time. So I am going to leave this in here, and now we're going to see the actual test cut. So now I'm going to click test, and because it auto detected correctly without that curl, it still auto adjusts the blade. And now the blade is reaching the material. I had to check because I can't see. Demonstrating from behind a machine is so much different than being able to use it from the front of the machine. So keep that in mind when you're watching these videos from me. Now, it did cut. I'm going to reach back here. The only bad part about a test cut, I would probably move it, which I will show in the next step here after I check this. But because this test cut is up here in this corner, and I don't want to remove my materials from my electrostatic mat, you're going to have to carefully do this on your cutting mat. So in the future, and I'm learning as I go too, because the Curio 2 is new, you may want to move your test cut, which we'll show you. So I'm just going to take this weeding tool, oh, and I lost it just a little bit, lost the charge, but it cut perfectly. And the reason it cut perfectly was because I was cutting sticker paper yesterday, and I learned that the setting was too much. The presets in the Silhouette Studio software are for specific materials. They are a starting point. It is not set in stone. It does not work for all materials. It is one that has worked for a few people. It may not work for you. So test cuts are very, very important, especially as you're learning the new Curio 2. So I'm just going to build this charge back up. Oh. Now let's move the housing. So what I'm going to do is you can use the buttons here on the touch panel, or let's jump to the software and I'll show you where these are located. On the software, you can use these buttons right here next to the test cut. So you have 4 directional arrows that are going to move your housing, and then you also have 1 and 2. If you're on an older model such as a Cameo 3, you're going to have a red circle for the tool 1 and a blue circle for tool 2. So that is what those numbers mean. Tool 1 is where our auto blade is. That is what we want to test cut with. So you can either click and hold down on these arrows in the software, or back on the machine, you can move the housing by pressing and holding. And then I'm going to come around to the side because it's going to be easier for me to see. Wherever you leave that housing is going to be where it performs that test cut. But down at the bottom of your materials is probably going to be easier for you to test cut. Now, the other option that you have is you can type out a capital B and use that as your test cut. The reason that we use a capital B, which I learned from another colleague years ago, the reason we use a B is it has straight lines, it has corners, and it has curves. So you're going to be able to tell if it's going to cut with your particular design if you have a design that's more than just straight lines. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to click the test cut button again. And then I'm going to watch, come to the side, and cross my fingers, and it worked. All a learning process. Now, once you have your test cuts done, you typically only need to do them for new materials or as your blade is getting dull. So if I take this and it cut perfectly. So it doesn't take that much time once you get into the habit of it. But what can take the most time is if you don't do your test cuts and you send the entire project to cut and it doesn't work. Then you're going to have to spend the time to not only do your test cuts, but also do the project all over again. So I hope those tips have helped, and I want you to be successful with your machines. Test cuts are going to be one of the ways that you are going to be successful. Now, in the future, when you don't do a test cut, you might kick yourself, which I do all the time, because there are times that I think I know what I'm doing, I don't test cut, and I do waste a bunch of materials. And that is on me. That's my fault. That's user error. If you test cut, you're going to have better success in knowing what is going to work for your particular materials. And as you could see in the very first part of this video, something wasn't right. When I went to do that test cut, it didn't work. That is a clue before I got through and tried to send a project to my entire sticker sheet and it didn't work. It would have ruined the whole sticker sheet. So hopefully those tips have helped. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell for notifications. For future content, I'm going to have lots more coming to you. Thank you.